was laying in my bed in extreme pain. It was late at night, and I had my two dogs with my two German shepherds, and crying and bargaining and everything else, and please, dear God, like I said, this was a God, because what God would allow all this to happen to a woman in my life? Please take all this pain away. Please take all the pain away. And as I lay there crying and bargaining and praying and everything else that you go through, um, I saw a bright light about the size of a golf ball coming at me. The next thing I know, I'm being lifted off the bed, and I could feel wings, arms lifting me.
I want to welcome everybody back to another episode of The Soul Inspired. Today we have Christine Malek. She has had multiple near-death experiences. We're going to talk about those experiences throughout her life. She's also a coach and works with people, men and women, who've gone through severe trauma and other things. So we're going to dig in a little deep into her story. But first of all, thank you so much, Christine, for coming on The Soul Inspired. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Joe. I appreciate it too. Thank you.
As I always say, we only get a few minutes to kind of meet and greet before we get started. I always feel like I'm diving right into people's personal lives, but I know yours has been quite a storyline. So we'll dig in pretty quick. But I always do this the same way, and I try to go back a little bit. Okay, so I go back to your childhood.
Hmm.
I don't know when the first traumatic experience or near-death experience type situation happened, but if there's a way we can go prior to that, because some people it's like, oh, it happened at 6. Well, let's go before 6 then. I'm trying to get who you were as little Christine. So just some backstory of who you were, how you were raised, any religious
Oh.
backgrounds, anything like that. Anything that you want to share, I'd love to hear it.
Well, okay. So it was not pretty. Um, so I found out my this is my normal. And it's going to sound all factual, and it's only because I'm I've accepted it. Okay. So I found out in my 30s that I was molested by my grandfather until I was 4 or 5 years old. I had an uncle that raped me at 12. From there, everything just kind of, the rapes, the situations that I was in, the promiscuous behavior, it just kept going throughout my whole life, including into college, where I was abducted and held captive when I was 18 for about 4 or 5 days.
Oh,
That yeah, drugged the whole time. Um, and it just kept escalating. Every situation, every part of my life just kept going and going and going and going. My first marriage was probably a narcissistic, but I have three beautiful children, three absolutely amazing grandchildren. That marriage was not, because I hadn't healed. I cheated on him, on my first husband. Still hadn't gone through any healing. The 2 or 3 years that I was single was just total party time. I am a recovering alcoholic. And then the second marriage happened, and that one was extremely toxic, extremely toxic. That man committed every form of toxicity possible. He is the one who, oh, and throughout my childhood. So my first attempt at suicide was when I was 16. I lost my brother when he was 15. So the relationship in my childhood was not a pretty one. There are memories that I still cannot recover because of all the trauma. So back to the second marriage, that one was the most toxic one. That's the one where, let's see, attempted on my life. He actually hit me in the head, and it was because of what I discovered later of those angels and my spirit guides that I realized saved me, and that I'm here for a reason. With all the near-death experiences that I've gone through, being held captive for 4 days, being totally drugged, that was not pretty. This was not pretty. The second marriage. And then throughout that marriage, I had attempted suicide several more times. I ended up it because the alcoholism got so bad, I ended up in the hospital. I died on the operating table twice. Um, let's see, and probably the last one was back in 2018. So my when I died on the operating table twice, that was back in 2016. I had four surgeries, 15 procedures. They cut me open from basically chest down, removed my appendix, my gallbladder, my gallbladder, part of my intestine, part of my colon, and my whole left fallopian tube. And the cirrhosis of the liver was so bad that my surgeon came in when I finally came out of recovery and said, the only words he ever spoke to me were, Christine, if you take another drink, you will die. I never tested that theory. I stayed sober ever since. Throughout that healing and going through a year of recovery is I ended up addicted to pain pills, got myself off those. I found the courage and the nerve and the strength to kick that SOB out in 2018. But I also found myself in extreme pain from all the surgeries and everything else. And that was my last, this was in, like I said, 2018 or 19, my true near-death experience, because that one was beautiful. It was magical. I now have Archangel Michael on my left shoulder and Archangel Gabriel on my right shoulder. And I met Michael, and it was the most beautiful encounter ever. The love, and I prayed to a God. So I was laying in my bed in extreme pain. It was late at night, and I had my two dogs with me, two German shepherds, and crying and bargaining and everything else. And please, dear God, like I said, this was a God, because what God would allow all this to happen to a woman in my life? Please take all this pain away. Please take all the pain away. I'll do anything, the bargaining, I'll do anything. Please take the pain away. And as I lay there crying and bargaining and praying and, everything else that you go through, um, I saw a bright light about the size of a golf ball coming at me slowly. I'm probably going to tear up. I always do because it's such a beautiful moment.
That's okay.
So the bright light came closer and closer. And as it got closer, it got bigger and brighter. And it was magical. There's a moment where you go, is this really happening? But you can't move. You're so entranced in what you're seeing. And the whole room, and this was late at night, the whole room just lit up at this bright. I mean, there's no light on earth that could ever come close to what this light was. It wasn't hot, it wasn't cold, it wasn't blinding, but it was bright. And it got bigger and bigger and closer and closer till I felt my whole body enveloped in this light. And the next thing I know, I'm being lifted off the bed, and I could feel wings, arms lifting me. And the amount of love, God's love, that I felt was indescribable, Joe. I mean, it really was.
Yeah.
And a voice whispered in my left ear, and it said, everything will be okay. And I felt the love, I felt the peace, the calm, and it felt like an eternity. And I have no idea how long it was. And I was slowly placed back down on my bed. And just as the light entered, that's how it exited. Just this big, huge light and white. And it got smaller and smaller and smaller till it left the room. And
Wow.
I got up the next morning and threw my feet over the bed and I went, did that really happen? And I looked over at my German Shepherd and I could swear he was looking at me going, Mom, that really happened.
Mm,
The gifts that I have been blessed with since that moment have been like I have seven of the eight clairs. The only one I don't have is taste, but
mm,
I do have seven of the eight clairs, and that was the most beautiful, beautiful encounter I had ever had. I still, like I said, Michael's on this side, Gabriel's on that side. And Michael has come to me several times throughout my life, some of those really challenging moments where I had moved to, this all happened in Florida, and I had moved to Tennessee, and I was going through a really rough time, and he actually appeared in my bedroom and stood there with his arms crossed, wings out, I mean, like way out. And he stood there, and I said, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Christine, what did I tell you? All those years ago, what did I tell you?" I said, "Yeah, I know, but no, 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 no." I said, "Yeah, I know, but." He said, "Christine, what did I tell you?" I said, "Yeah, I know, but." And he said, "No. What did I tell you?" You said everything would be okay. And he said, "Then why is this any different?" I said, "Okay."
mm.
To sleep I went. And I woke up again the next morning going, wow, I am truly blessed. And I know that my path is to help others, let them know they're not alone.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
that's incredible. And it's not surprising. Like your story isn't surprising to me, mainly, I started this conversation by asking how your childhood was, right?
You did. Sorry. Did I
No, that's
answer
okay. You did
that?
answer it. You did answer it. But I
Okay.
mean, you weren't just going to Sunday school and going and getting some candies from the store, like you went through it. You went through a lot of things. And
Yeah.
we can break down some of those things or whatnot or not, but you went through a lot in your life leading up to 2018, 2019, right? So the NDE was in 2018, I think you said the main one.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so I guess my point is this. A lot of people who've gone through what you went through up to that point wouldn't already be here anyways, if I'm being really honest with you, right? Um, I started my career in social work working with pregnant teens and youth that went through a lot. So I already know what they're going through before their life even took off. And to go through it and then 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 to go through it. There's only so much that a human being can feel like they can go through. So,
Yeah.
you get to a point in 2018 where you have this, it's kind of a mix of an ND. If we were to call it the NDE, was that when you were on, like, when that happened, had you had any reason to die at that moment?
Just the pain. The pain. You have to remember, I had gone through four surgeries and 15 procedures, and part of those procedures was getting the fluid sucked out of my body. Okay, because my liver was shut down and
Mm,
getting their, full-blown cirrhosis, all the things that they removed from my body. The pain was excruciating, and I knew that I could not stay addicted to. I knew at that point that I had to get off the pain pills. I mean, we're talking everything from oxys, tramadol, Percocet. I mean, you name it, I was getting those pain pills. Okay.
right.
Some legally, some not. Okay.
Mm,
Prescriptions, even back then in 2018, were just coming into you have to have a prescription and, it has to be 30 days. And you find ways when you're in pain. And as an addict, you find ways.
Right.
And I knew there was something that was just gnawing at me that said, I have got to get off these pain pills. I kicked the alcohol. I have got to and this is not my first time with drug addiction either. My first husband, this was back in the 80s, so it was cocaine. Okay, so I
Yeah.
went through all the cocaine addiction and, before it was, we were smoking it before it was like, whatever it's called now, I forget, anyway, so, my first husband actually got to a point where he was shooting it. And at that point, I was like, that's where I kind of draw the line. So, so yes, I knew I needed to get off those pain pills. The pain was, again, when you're bargaining with a God that you don't believe in, the
Hmm.
pain's got to be excruciating. And I have a high, because of all the shit that I've been through my whole life, I have that high tolerance for pain.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that was one of the leading questions I was gonna ask, not leading, but the question I wanted to lead into was that before the 2018 experience, you attempted on your life. You
Mhm.
had, I mean, obviously, even as a child, j just even going through the things you went through as a child, I have people who've had NDEs based on those because they're in so much trauma in that moment. They just go, I'm out, and they leave their body. They like literally just jump out. I mean, to me, that's a near-death experience. You're just, I mean, how many times have you heard of that happening and the kid never wakes up or something, right? Well, they were just so scared or upset or whatever. They just same thing when people are with someone their whole life, one person dies, the next person dies 2 weeks later. Well, they didn't have anything wrong with them, but broken heart, whatever it is, right? Our
Right.
soul or our body has the tendency to be able to do that. You survived all of that somehow in this physical incarnation, right? So you didn't die at all or have any NDEs during those moments, or did you?
In my childhood, honestly, if I did, I don't remember them because of all the
Mm-hmm.
trauma. There, like I said, that there are very few childhood memories that I do have,
Mm-hmm.
and the ones that I do have not been real pretty clearly. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there was a lot of trauma in my childhood, a lot. Like I said, losing my brother at 16. I was 16, he was 15. Discovering in my 30s. I was in my 30s when I discovered part of that. I had always wondered, why do I not have childhood memories? And the ones that I do have are not all that pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
There are memories going back even, or no memories that, I've tried to go back to, when I was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I remember kindergarten, but not like the whole year. There was only a few days of kindergarten that I remember. The whole year is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had those near-death experiences when I was younger, I don't remember them. I don't
Right.
remember them. It would not surprise me if I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
That
gonna
would not
say
be a
'cause
surprise.
I have a strong fascination with hypnosis, hypnotherapy. I'm even learning about it and to actually work within it. And not that I'd ever want you to go back and endure any of the things you already went through. It's probably good that you're
That's
in
how I
this.
found out. That's how I found out about my grandfather. I was actually in
Uh,
hypnosis to quit smoking, and she went, "Okay, so how far back? How far back? When was the first?" Because my parents smoked, my grandparents smoked. She went so far back that that's where all those memories finally came. I was
mhm.
like, "Oh, snap!" Yeah, that was
Yeah.
not pretty. That
Yeah,
was not
and
pretty.
human beings have the tendency if something is painful enough or uh, strange enough in any way in our life, we can shut those memories completely off. It's the same reason why people keep having kids. It's like in the first couple years
Right?
are crazy, right? And you go, oh my gosh, if I can survive, then it gets easier. And then you go, oh, let's have another one. And they keep doing it. So like any type of anything that's stressful on your life, and that's, you turn off that memory and yours are really stressful, beyond have just having children kind of thing. It's very,
Yes.
very traumatic. So yeah. So and then there's a lot of people who've had these hypnosis where they can recall actually having NDEs as well within it. So that's why I was curious about that. But so up until 2018, then would you have considered yourself atheist then, or like non-believer?
Oh, no,
No,
no.
no.
Oh, no, 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 no. No, honey, I was born and raised Catholic.
Oh, you're born and
Okay.
raised Catholic. Okay.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Like, like Sunday mass, the whole 9 yards, like total Catholic church. Okay.
Mm.
I even went through all 12, 13 years or whatever it was of CCD classes. Okay. Had gone through so much in the CCD classes that they said, when I turned 18, would you like to teach? And I was like, I'm 18. No, I'm done.
Yeah.
I started exploring religions because I just didn't feel like I belonged in that one. Okay. There's that tug in your soul. Okay. So I started exploring all different types of religions back when I was probably early 30s. I mean, like every religion, all your major ones and all the little ones. I mean,
Hmm.
everything from Celtic and Wiccan to Hindu and Buddhism and, I knew Catholic Judaism, I mean, everything. I explored all of them. And I realized in my journey that I'm just the opposite of atheist. Okay. I believe it. And because of meeting with Michael, so I used to say that I'm a retired Catholic, okay, because I just don't believe in the Catholic religion. That's and having that experience and feeling God's love, whatever God you pray to, whatever God you believe in, okay. I mean, I don't want to debate religion, but I know what I felt. Okay, whatever that God is, whatever that higher power is, whatever that your higher person, whatever it is that you believe, um, it's all centered around love. And I'm not saying, I don't want, like I said, I don't want to get political and I don't want to get religious. Um, but to answer your question, no, I was raised Catholic and I went through
Okay.
all those, I went
Good.
through all those. Yeah, I mean, I'm a person that believes that, see, you have to understand religions were man-made.
Hmm.
Okay. They come from man, not from that higher power, that higher being, and not from the universe. They're all man-made. And it doesn't matter, and that's okay. Understand that that one source, whatever it is for you, or multiple sources, the base of it is based on love. And I felt that love. I mean, to go out, no matter what I do, whether it's my coaching, talking to my children, other people that I meet, other coaching that I do, everything comes from, and I coach, come from a place of love. Okay. I mean, it really, truly does heal everything.
Hmm.
I mean, people have asked me, well, don't you still harbor ill feelings to the man that shot you in the head? I'm like, I did, but not anymore. That's his cross to bear, not mine. I'm healed from that.
Mm.
So,
Wow. Well, that's amazing. No, yeah, and I didn't mean to assume there was atheism in
no.
there. I guess it was more the if there was any type of confusion towards what a God was to you with all the things that you endured, right? When people go through that much, they say, why me and what happened and why have I been, you know, why have I been left to be treated this way, right? A lot of
Oh
people
yeah.
go, yeah. So I'm sure you had those
Oh
moments.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh hell yeah,
Yeah.
years of why me? Why do I have to go through this?
Hmm.
Why am I experiencing this? But it's part of the process and your healing process and your spiritual journey to be able to say, okay, I went through. I realized, after I was, it really was the day after that I was shot in the head. Okay, that I went, okay, I mean, I got dried blood in my hair, I got a hole in my head. Okay. Um, I knew the marriage was over. I died inside. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. I died inside. The next morning, and I slept in the spare room that night. And I woke up the next morning going, something's got to change. And this isn't the life that I'm supposed to lead. So what is it? What is my purpose? What is my reason for being on this earth? Why do I survive all this shit that I had gone through? I mean, even from my childhood, why did I survive all that? And I stopped asking why and went, okay, now what?
Mm-hmm.
And I let them guide me. I let my spirit guides guide God, goddess, whatever, I believe in all of it. So I let them guide me. And I have, like I said, Michael and Gabriel. And trust me, if I get off the path, Michael's right there slapping me upside the head, going, nah,
Hmm.
that's not where we're going.
Right.
That's not what we're doing.
Yeah, been there, done that, right? So
Right.
so it's almost like that you got to a point in your life where, your higher self, whatever we want to call it, knew that you needed a little guidance or help along the way, and they showed up.
Yes.
And
Yes.
um That's a huge message because there's a lot of people who go through a lot of things and they get to the point where they have, some people call it the dark night of the soul or dark whatever it of the
Oh
soul.
my
Right.
gosh. Oh my gosh. You want to talk Dark Night of the Soul? I
Right.
can talk Dark Night of the Soul.
Well, I was gonna say
Yeah.
you've probably had a few of them, and we get to that point, and it's like, how do you get to the point where you get connected to your higher self? You get like you had this experience, right? I look at you, and you've had this experience, and now you've seen something that is beyond, this, whatever it is we're doing here for 100 years, if we make it. Um, that's it, right? Like so many of us are led to believe that this is just what we're doing, and we just go through our day to day, eat, sleep, drink, whatever we do, and then just it's just like and then all of a sudden you have this experience you've had, and it flips everything on its behind because you're kind of like, what do I do now with this? This
Yeah.
doesn't even make any sense to me. Yet it was a beautiful experience. So when that happened, right? When that experience happened, I would assume it took you a little bit of time to kind of align to it. Like what did you do after that?
Oh, it was a long time. You fight it. Okay, you go, no, 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 this can't be real. This can't be happening. Like I said, that's when the first few of my clairs, my gifts, started showing up. Okay, clairsentient, claircognizant, clairaudient, clairvoyant, clearly clairvoyant because I'm seeing angels everywhere. Okay, I mean they're there. They're there. Okay. Now for me, they show up as winged creatures. Okay. So anytime a winged creature's around, I stop and I listen and like, okay, what do you need to tell me? Okay. But after that experience, like I said, it was there's a lot of searching. There's a lot of soul searching. There's a lot of you know, listening. That's probably the big, and we don't listen as humans, we just don't listen. We really don't. We don't really listen to what others say. We
Hmm.
don't listen to what our family says. We certainly don't listen to our spirit guides, angels, whatever you'd like to call them, because they're there and they talk loud. But you got to see the signs. You got to listen for it.
Hmm.
So there was a lot of now this isn't happening, am I crazy? You know,
Hmm.
wait, what? I mean, there's a lot of that went on. Again, I stopped asking why and just so one of the things that I do teach in my coaching is the word surrender. Okay. And that's really, it's hard to describe it, but you really have to surrender to everything. Everything. When you have this type of experience, you surrender to everything. You surrender your whole being, mind, body, soul, to that higher power, whatever it is you believe in, and it will show up. It is a journey. It does not happen overnight. That's one of the things that I tell all my clients that it does not happen overnight. We hear these stories, we have these podcasts, and we have these interviews, and I try and stress, please, okay, it does not happen overnight. It took me years
Hmm.
to get where I am today. Because I mean, that was 2018 on that one. He's shown up, several times. I have Gabriel that speaks to me through others. It's a lot of people look at it as a curse. And when you can flip that and go, it's not a curse, you are blessed. There's a reason for it. Stop asking why and just accept it. Surrender to the gift you're given. And that's
Hmm.
kind of, that's where I'm at.
Wow. And it takes a lot of, I was gonna say with the whole surrender, mind, body, soul, that type of thing, right? I think there's a lot of people who go their whole life that they don't do that. Like they don't surrender. I think some of us surrender a little bit. I think even I
Mhm.
have personally, and I know, but there's always like that hold to the ego, hold to the whatever it is that's keeping us chained down. I think to surrender entirely like that is usually when someone does find themselves in that place that dark night, that space where it's like well, there's no other option now. And that's when it goes
Exactly.
over. So and I say that because anybody listening in might be like, "Oh my goodness, I would love to have that, just to feel like I can do that." Well, it's not easy to completely surrender like that. The part of
It's
being
not.
human is the ego and trying to be who we are and all the things we went through and having to hold on to that like security blanket or be tough or whatever. All these things that we've learned how to do. So to be able to be like, okay, I'm just gonna strip naked and let it all out. Like it's really difficult to do that.
It is.
It takes a lot of work, and that's why it's good the stuff that if the work that you do with clients and things like that, because people can get there, but you don't have to do it so dramatically either, right? Because it's not an easy task. Like you could do that, and I mean, there's a lot that comes with that. It could be a lot of healing through family traumas and all kinds of chaos, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
um, I wanted to ask you when you had the actual experience itself, right? So, see, personally, again, this is just, I mean, I have my own personal feelings. People listening in have their feelings and their opinions, and I would guess, based on how many people I've talked to and how many studies I've done with near-death experiences, that there's a very high probability. I mean a very, very high probability that you've had many near-death experiences before the 2018 experience. And um, I just think that I think the experience in 2018 was the one that said, okay, we're going to let you have that memory. We're going to let you remember what's going on. Because if you notice how quickly your clairs came on, everything was, I mean, that was probably already building. And then when you had
Yes.
that, you know what I mean? Because you already, that's probably why you even had the experience the way you did is because you've already experienced it.
Yes.
I don't know if this makes any
Yes.
sense, but that's the way that I'm interpreting it.
Yeah, well, let's not forget, and maybe, and I apologize for that. So before that incident in 2018, okay, where Michael came to me and lifted me with his wings, okay, I did die on the operating table twice, okay, and that was in 2016.
Mm,
2015, 14? No, actually it was 2000 because I was in between the two marriages. I had a motorcycle accident that I should not have survived. Okay. I should not have survived that motorcycle accident.
mm,
And I did. Okay. And yeah, you get up the next morning and go, oh, I mean, like, Joe, I had so much road rash. Like, so I had my sunglasses on, both, I mean, like, raccoon black eyes. Okay. Brush burn from here, 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 on my hand, elbows, knees. Like, I should not have, how I did not have
wow.
any broken bones is beyond me. Well, so I thought back then, but
Hmm.
now I know. Okay.
Hmm.
Being abducted at 18 years old, and I mean, I realize it's not a near-death experience, but I should not have survived that either. Okay.
Hmm.
That was not my first abduction, that was my third. So there have been
Wow.
things that have happened in my life that have led me, yeah, and I realize that some people may look at this and go, "Oh, girl, you should not have survived any of that. What are you going to do with your life?" Well, I know what I'm doing with my life. Um, I know it's hard for some people to understand, in fact, because we don't, the normal human psyche, as you stated earlier, cannot stand that. Yes, a person would crack, the psyche would just fracture, okay, whether it be multiple personalities. And I don't suspect that, maybe there might be, okay, because I don't remember childhoods, okay, so there
Hmm.
may have been that split somewhere in my life. Um, I don't know. It's just it's not. I don't want to say it's, the hand I was dealt, because I learned from it and I
Hmm.
grew from it. And now I try and help others get through it. Okay. I mean, a lot of my coaching is spiritual, but I don't consider myself a spiritual coach. Okay. It's not like I studied one modality over the other. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I mean, I should not be here. I know that.
Yeah.
And I've accepted that a long time ago, that I have survived all this for a reason. And I know at
Hmm.
this point in my life what that reason is. It's to start a nonprofit, which is happening this month, as a matter of fact,
Oh,
to
wow.
build buildings all over the world for women and men. who have gone through that trauma have nowhere else to live. It's like I call it a shelter on steroids. Okay. That's that was actually gifted to me as well. Okay. I mean, one day back in 2000, let's see, it was 2021. I'm sitting at my desk in Knoxville and I'm going, wait, what? And I started writing. Like, you know how you get into that where you just write. You don't worry about grammar. You don't worry about, what the words look like, misspellings. And I just started writing, and the whole plan just came out. I'm like,
Hmm.
afterwards, I'm looking at it going, holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I
Right.
stopped questioning the why and,
Hmm.
okay, you guys show me how.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I
That's
was
what you
gonna
do.
say, I mean, that's just like with songwriting. That's what I started doing at 11 years old. I personally I didn't go
Right.
through near the amount of trauma you went in your life, but I mean, I lost my father to alcoholism. He was also told at one point he can't drink anymore, and he did, and
Mm.
he's no longer here. So affected by a lot of things in my life, and at a young age, I had to learn to be okay with something happening that didn't make sense to me, meaning I could start playing chords on a guitar and just start singing and saying things without thinking, and then creating music that way and writing. And I've done that my whole life. I understand exactly what you mean when you say you just started writing and then you look at it and you go, okay, it's there. Like you weren't doing it from a place of, oh, let's think about what should I do with this and what should I do with this and how could I? No, it's just like da 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 da. There we go. That's how it's going to happen. And then you go, okay, but
Yeah.
then the human comes on and you go, okay, how can I do that? Like how would I even achieve that? Or that starts. But in the moment, it's a stream, right? You're just writing what you're being told to write. And I was going to say too, when I hear stories like this,
Yes.
I never approach people. This is, what I used to do when I was in social work too, a little bit is I've never really approached people when they go through things like this, like sympathy. Like I don't have sympathy, I have empathy. I have empathy. I
Mm.
feel it. Because if I give you just sympathy, then I'm just saying, oh, poor you. It's sad that you went through that. It's too like, yes, it's good to feel that people care. But the strongest people in the world go through what you've went through. Like that's strength. That is like I look at it like we have these souls that come in and we're dealt this card, this card to this card, right? Now, I'm not saying to anyone listening, if you've had a really easy life that you did, you're not a strong person. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what you gain, as hard as it is unbelievable because you can affect people in such a dramatic way because you've endured it and that's if I break my leg, I go to a doctor. I say this all the time. Like I need to get my leg put back together, right? If you've gone through something and you want to know, well, what do I do? Like what's better than to talk to someone who understands it completely? So that's what I think probably happened to you is once you went through that in 2018, you came out of it and you went, wow, I'm like a survivor. And that's what I mean. That's why, I mean that very respectfully about the sympathy, empathy thing. It's more, if I just walked around giving sympathy to everybody, well, gee, we all have our things, you know. But I hear what you
Right.
go through and I'm like, wow, I've written 2 pages here of what you've kind of gone through and gone, when did the NDE happen? Was it here, 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 or here? So yeah, like I get
Right.
it. I get it. But it's amazing. When you had that experience and you've seen the light and everything came to you, did it feel real? Or did it feel like what did it feel like? Did it feel as real as this? Like you and I talking?
No.
Or, or different state?
Yeah, yes. So I was present to it, but I think it was more my spirit side that was more present to it. Okay. I think, um, I mean, I remember it vividly. Like it happened last night, vividly. That's that. I mean, I could tell you, the sheets and the comforter that I had on my bed, pictures on my wall, what was on that wall, which was blank, okay, because it was straight ahead that it actually came through the wall of my house, okay. I could tell you that, the drapes on my blinds on my windows. I mean, I could tell you everything in that room because I remember it so vividly,
Mm,
okay. And as that light came, like I said, it started out the size of like a golf ball, and it actually came through the house and through the walls, okay, and through the bedroom wall. And I remember. So it's not like a spotlight, and it's more of arcs of light, okay? And you know that the center was extremely bright and the outside arcs were not as bright, and they kind of got dimmer as it got closer, okay? Until I was fully enveloped in that white light. That white light became then the huge, it took up the whole room and probably then some, okay?
Hmm.
My feelings were how do you explain that? How do you put that into words? That's always been my hardest part. How do you put that into words? Because the feeling, the feeling of love, okay, God's love and the higher power love, and whatever you want to call it, okay, that love was present from the moment it entered the room, and that was the only thing you felt. That's,
Mm.
you know, I've said that bright light is never, it's never hot, it's not cold. There's no temperature to it. There's safety in that light. There's peace and calm within that light. You know, I mean, what could you possibly feel other than that love? I mean, it really, and it's a love that us humans will never truly get close enough to, other than, you know, your love for your children. Okay, that's
Mhm.
probably the closest thing, because that is a true unconditional love, especially when they're first born. You know, that love that a child has for a parent is the closest, but we as humans will never experience that love until we've had an experience like this, till we've given ourselves to our higher power, to our God, goddess, whatever you believe in. Okay, it's was it dreamlike? Yes. Was it catatonic? Maybe. Was it was it real? Yes. I mean, it was real. It's you know, to have a memory that vivid that I could share every single day and still get those feelings inside of me. I mean, it's like I said, it's joy, it's happiness, it's love, it's patience, it's calm, it's peace. How else do you explain it? I mean,
It's
it's God's love,
it's all
you
the
know?
things you were going after in your life and you weren't getting that up and you know.
Right,
So
right.
you're explaining all
Yeah.
these things. So imagine having that after enduring all the stuff you went through. That would be shocking to the system. But it could also be a nice reset to the system, I would think, because it would fill you up with the things that have been drained from you. So you all of a sudden understand the feelings again and you go, wow, okay. I get a second stab at this thing, you know? And you've had so many times where, you know, obviously the reason I mentioned earlier, probably the NDE thing is you're probably told to go back multiple times. From people I talk to, that's what happens, right? Hey, you got so much work to do. You're here too young. You're too early. It's you got to go back, and you don't remember those. So in this instance, it gave you this feeling. It said, okay, we're gonna show you a little bit, and then it's time to do the work.
Yeah.
And and you know, when you say yes, it's dreamlike, you know, when people are trying to explain the feeling, then you got to question what are really dreams, you know? Like
Well,
I say yes, our brain waves are going all crazy all the time, but dreams, there's times where your dreams are different than what a dream is, you know? It's like,
yes.
you know, and is this the is
Oh,
what is this compared to
yeah.
that? You know, because most people will say that felt more realistic than this.
Right, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's one of the other gifts that I mean, I do get visions. That's another gift of mine that I've been bestowed. I mean, I can have um good Lord, you know, I could tell you about the time that one of the visions that I had. So I ended up in the shower and I was getting ready for work one morning. And this was a few years ago. And I was getting ready for work and I'm in the shower and all of a sudden this huge like you would okay, I know I have CPTSD and I, you know, I mean I've gone through all that. I know I have all the trauma and I've healed as much that I possibly can. Anxiety was never one of them. And if I had it, I've either learned to live with it or I don't know where I'm at with anxiety. Okay. But that
Mhm.
is not like one of my top feelings. All right. Well, here I am in the shower having this huge anxiety attack.
Mhm.
Huge. And I'm like, I'm just getting ready for work. Okay. Now, a lot of my healing had already taken place, and little by little, more of my gifts were coming on. And I'm in the shower, and the next thing I know, okay, I am now in a downtown city. Okay. A young man was just hit by he was on a bicycle and he was hit by a car and he is laying in the street. I mean, and I'm there. Okay. I don't know how else to explain it. Okay. Other than I know my spiritual body is right there with him.
Mhm.
Okay. People are starting to come over, they're looking at him. He's got blood all over the place, broken bones, bones are poking. I mean, like it was a huge major accident. This young man was not going to survive. Okay. I could see out of the corner of my eye, I could see the paramedics coming and they're just starting to take care of him and doing CPR on him. Now his spirit is in a huge hole that opened up in the ground. Okay. And he is hanging on. Okay. And all I'm doing is grabbing his wrists and telling him, it's okay. You got to hang on. The paramedics are here. They're going to take care of you. Now, his idea and his thoughts of what hell looks like was what I looked into. Okay. I mean, I looked into the pits of hell. So when I tell people that I have seen hell, I've seen hell. I've lived hell. I've seen hell. And all I could do as I'm holding on to him is just tell him, listen, it's going to be okay. It's going to be, they're here, they're working on you. You got to come back. Tell me a reason to live. Okay. Whatever I could come up with at that time. And little by little, he just let go of his fingers. Okay. In this, I mean, like in the street, the hole is in this. I can't explain it, Joe.
Mm.
Um, and he let go and he said, it's my time to go. His version of hell was down there. I mean, I could tell you the rocks and the bricks and the blocks and the fire and I mean, but that's his version of hell.
Mm.
That's where he knew he was going because of the life that he led. And there was nothing that I could do. There was nothing that I could do to save him, to save his soul. Um, he let go and I came back out of it then sitting in my towel soaking wet on the bed, the shower's still running, and I'm now on my bed crying,
Mm.
uh, like huge breakdown cry. Okay, because not only did I transport to where he was, and I know this sounds really crazy, but not only did I transport to where he was, but I felt everything that he felt, every broken bone, every fractured bone, spleen, I mean everything
Wow.
in his body. And I have not lost the gift since. Like I can feel
Wow.
pain like you wouldn't believe.
And you saw that he was going to have a bit of an experience after his life.
Yeah.
I've spoken with many people who've had hellish like experiences, and um, some have gone there and then realized it was within them that created this. This is, and I'm not saying, not arguing with anybody out there with religious beliefs of what hell is, but from the people I've spoke with who've had hellish experiences, a lot of them came out of the hellish experience and went into a light and love, and a lot of them were able to come out of this. Not all of them. Some of them came back and they said, "Okay, I got to work on me so I don't go back there," that kind of thing. But the ones who came out realized that they did experience their version of hell because that's what their soul felt it needed to have. And I know that sounds absolutely absurd. It sounds crazy, but it
Right?
needed it to see the light, right? So it's not that that person that you're speaking of is now doomed for the rest of eternity. We don't know what happened next, but hopefully he found his way, whichever way that goes in the right direction. And
Right.
but you were having an experience in that's quite an experience to transport like that. Now, what's really wild is like you look at like where we're at now, like we are evolving as humans, right? Like everything's changing very quickly. And I think
Yes.
it's yeah, that sounds crazy. That sounds out of touch with reality, but we don't know what kind of experiences the human being will have in 300 years from now. We don't know. There's a lot of shifting happening very quickly right now. We're in a really different time. These conversations are easier to have. These podcasts are
Yep.
easier to have. There's talk of disclosure of all these different beings of other dimensions. There's orbs in the sky people are seeing. There's, and this isn't just like everyone's just not like psychotic. Like these are actual like
Right?
people like putting out, videos on Instagram and TikTok and just like
Yep.
wild stuff. So like anything I hear, I'm like, okay, I'll take it. I can't be like, yes, I 100% believe and agree with. I wasn't there. I don't know for sure, but I'm also not going to be like, oh, that's crazy. Like that's crazy talk because I don't know. We don't know, and it's
Well,
important.
and I've said that for years, okay, even before, like many, many years ago, okay, like when my kids were little and they're now in their 30s, okay, approaching 40. And I said, we are one planet within this solar system, within this mass amount of universe. We cannot possibly be so naive to think we are the only living creatures.
Right. Right. And
Right?
I remember finding that out when I was about 19 or so. I got a job and I remember I was on this computer and I was looking at how we were a galaxy and it was like just
Right?
and then we're like, "Oh, and that little dot is the Earth and then this is the galaxy." And then you could zoom out. And as you zoomed out, you saw that there was billions of galaxies and I was like,
Right?
there's no way. Like I'm not even like how is that it? It didn't compute at all. And that was, there's always been these thoughts of how that makes sense. But
Yeah.
this has been amazing. You mentioned that
Thank you.
you coach or you speak with people and you have clients. How do people get in touch with the work you do or anything that you are doing? I mean, you obviously
Is
mentioned too that you're doing this, you got this big idea of starting a nonprofit, all these things. So
yeah.
yeah, where do people find out your information?
Yeah, the easiest place is go to sassycoach.com, and that's SASSI. And that is an acronym. Just so that you know, for women, it is strong, assertive, smart, sexy, and independent.
Mm,
And for men, it is sincere, ambitious, supportive, stylish, and inclusive.
mm, love it.
Yeah,
And the word
thank you.
sassy, I mean, it gives you a little bit of a, it's your personality traits a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
So Chat GTP, you know what I
Chat
mean?
GPT, yeah.
GPT,
Yeah.
yeah, has kind of nicknamed me the sassy siren of strength
Oh, nice.
because all the yeah, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, how about a nickname? He's like, how about this one? I'm like, or she. I'm like,
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So people go to that website, they can find out
Yep.
information on
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And then I always leave the show with one final question with everyone.
Go for it.
You had, and trying to think how I can word this right. Everyone that's watched the show knows which question I'm about to ask, but the thing is you've had what I what's amazingly remarkable to me is you had this life that you had, and then you had this big experience, and you were shown the opposite of what you've been going through in many ways, right? Meaning you had love come in, you had trust, you had,
Yes. Yes.
everything that you're just like, hey, that I'll stay here. Like this is where I'd rather be. That's the way a lot of people feel when they have an experience like that.
Yes.
And then you came to and you're back in this life. Have you ever sat with the idea and thought to yourself why we come here and do this if that exists? Like if we can actually just feel that way and be over there in this love, what is the purpose of our coming here? Why do we come here and incarnate here? That's the question I always ask everybody.
Because of what you experience on that side. So you're over here to share it, to share this, to do things like this, to share that love within your own family, to share that experience. For me, anyway, because for me, it's all about love. Okay. So, yes, I had to come back. And you just said it because of everything that I've been through, up to that point. You can't experience light without dark. You
Hmm.
can't experience dark without the light. You need one and they're both there. Okay. You don't know what good is till you know what bad is.
Wow.
So our purpose here as humans, and we've probably all experienced some sort of whether it be big or little, okay, whether it be what you went through, what I went through, what the basic human out there, the average human out there goes through. Okay, we've probably all come here with a purpose. Most of us choose to ignore it. Probably 99% of the population chooses to ignore it. It's people like you and I, with what we do, to open their eyes, open their hearts, and say, there is this really good side over there, but it starts here on this side.
Hmm.
Start here. Start at the bottom. You can't reach the top of the tree without starting at the trunk.
Oh, I love that too. That's a good point. Ah,
Yeah.
amazing. Well, this has been really a nice talk. I've really appreciated you coming on, Christine. It's
Thank you.
I always look to the audience near the end of the show and just say, please, first of all, continue to like, share, and subscribe to the Soul Inspired. That's the first thing, because these stories help a lot of people. Share it with someone privately if you want to, if someone that you can reach out to. I'm sure Christine would be happy to speak with anyone. And what I would do is just suggest anyone to go to our website, Sassy Coach. Is it .com?
.com. Yes.
sassycoach.com. And but no, I really do appreciate you coming on and telling your story. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Joe. I really appreciate it.
So